Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Becca and today we are doing some repotting. I've been putting off repotting for quite a while, but honestly, who's surprised by that? And I have a lot to do today, so I hope that you're ready to get stuff done. I know that I am. I have my drink here to get me through it. This is a smoothie that I made, and I added in some Bellway fiber supplement because fiber is extremely important. I will be talking about that more later, but I wanted to give a big thank you to Bellway for sponsoring this video, and let's get right into it. Okay, so as you can see, I have two plants here that I'm for sure going to be repotting. I'm going to remember to remove my ring because I always forget and then I get dirt in it, which is not good. So, okay, I'm going to first do this one. This is a Begonia. I forgot the name, but I recently put it in a video and it's still sitting here. So I figure let's just do this right now. Oh my gosh. Leo is sitting on that chair. Koopy is sitting on this chair. You guys are so perfect. They understood the assignment. I'm going to be potting it just in a terracotta pot, like one of the terracotta pots that I thrifted. I'm gonna grab one of the bigger ones though. That seems like it'll be a nice size for it. And of course I'm gonna be using De La tanks because I love De La tanks. We know that it's just my favorite. I obviously created the product, so I love it. My dogs think that it's a treat. It's not a treat, Koopy. It's soil. It's soil. This plant is basically potted 100% in peat moss. So I'm just removing like all of that basically. Well, not all of it because begonia roots are very, very fine. So I'm just gonna remove as much of it as I can. I don't have a ton of experience repotting begonias, so I don't know if they're particularly sensitive. I guess we will have to find out. Okay. I feel like that is pretty bare bones as it's gonna get. So let's just go with that. These roots are so little and stringy. I was not expecting that. I'm leaving quite a bit of room at the top because I want to bury more of the bottom stems as well as this trellis. So basically I'm just putting the bottom rung of the trellis at the very bottom of the pot. Every time I show this, I get questions about where it's from. I got this from RT1 Home. You can also find alternatives to it, like online, like a soil scoop or something, but that's where I got mine if you're interested at all. And it definitely makes my plant life like way easier, way easier. I don't have to wear gloves as often because we know that I don't like getting my hands dirty, but usually like the only contact that my actual hands have with the soil is if I'm like removing the roots from soil, like tickling the roots or patting it down, which is like pretty minimal in my opinion. Like I feel like my hands would mostly get dirty with the grabbing it out of the bag and then pouring it in. I don't know. I noticed that it helps keep my hands clean, so I enjoy it. All right, one plant all done. She looks really cute in this pot. I love it. It's like a match made in heaven. I need to remove the price tag. $2 for this pot. Can't beat a deal like that. That's so good. Before we get a little bit further into the repotting, I want to take a moment to talk about Bellway because I'm so excited to share it with you guys. I know that it's kind of nerdy, but I think that fiber is so incredibly important, and Bellway makes adding fiber into your diet really, really easy. Actually, one of my very, very best friends is a dietitian, and she told me that fiber is seriously one of the most important parts of your diet, and it is so easily overlooked. So when Bellway reached out, I was like, yeah, I need to take this because this is a really, really good thing. And also one of my favorite lifestyle influencers has a degree in nutrition, and she also talks about Bellway, so I just knew that it was amazing. So with that, the supplement comes in the form of a powder, which is really easy to add into water or just any drink. And also I like to put it in my smoothies because I already have smoothies almost every single day. So it's just a really great way to sort of like alter a habit that I already have. The supplement is made with a super fiber called psyllium husk, and it helps, you know, keep your gut healthy. It helps with bloating, breakouts, and of course, keeping you regular, if you know what I mean. Super important to stay regular. I know it's kind of awkward, but it's definitely an extremely important part of nutrition. So just a few facts about Bellway is that it is paleo friendly, gluten-free, contains 0 sugar, keto, organic, all natural, and you can take it 1 to 3 times a day. And that is like a scoop 1 to 3 times a day. The serving size is 1 scoop. So if you are interested in checking out Bellway, I highly suggest it, of course. You can head over to the link down in the description box below and use the code BECCA20 on your first order. You can use FSA or HSA on Bellway. It's also available in select Target locations and on Amazon. Let's talk about what the next plant is going to be. I think I'm going to do this guy. This little cutie. I'm excited to repot this one. I think I'm just gonna do another one of these pots because I don't think that the root system is very big, so I don't want to overload it, obviously. I'm probably gonna also take off a lot of the old soil. I asked you guys what you wanted me to talk about, and thank God you came through with some topics because I was kind of like, what are we gonna chat about? But somebody asked, how has your plant parenthood changed over the years? Which I think is such a great question and definitely one that I can dive into. I feel like a lot of plant parents sort of take on the same journey, like similar journeys at least. Like you have like when you first start owning plants, you're like really excited. So you buy a bunch of things and you're not necessarily thinking about, I don't know, what it needs or how healthy it is. You're just seeing a plant and you're like, I want it. And I feel like that's sort of the journey that I'm going through with outdoor gardening because it's a whole new section of plants that I've never been exposed to or seen or whatever, you know, I'm just learning about all these new plants and I'm so intrigued by them. But the most research that I've done, which is definitely more than I did with houseplants in the beginning, is, you know, what zone do they do best in? And thankfully I live in a zone where basically everything grows here. Like I live in the South America of outdoor gardening. Like, you know how like all houseplants grow really well in South America because that's where they're endemic to? It's kind of similar for me here. I mean, these plants that I'm planting are not endemic to Missouri, but what I'm saying is this environment really fosters them well. So yeah, that's a really, really positive thing. So I feel like I'm gonna have less, oops, I just heard something crack. I feel like I'm gonna have less hiccups because, well, I feel like it's a bit much, but I feel like I'm gonna have less hiccups because my environment is just like perfect for the types of plants that I'm planting. So that helps. So I can definitely see, oh, there was the crack. This leaf fell off. Darn it. We almost made it with no casualties. I feel like I'm being wiser with my outdoor plant acquisition than I was at the beginning with my indoor plant acquisition because I would see something I liked and just buy it. And sometimes it worked out. Like for example, you can kind of see it, my Albosingonium. I didn't really know much about the plant, but I knew that it was gaining a little bit of popularity, but it wasn't like the it plant. It became the it plant soon after I bought it, but honestly, I wasn't really thinking too much about anything when I bought it. I was just like, oh, it's pretty, let's get it. I was super irresponsible financially in the beginning, and as time has gone on, I don't want to say the excitement for plants has dimmed down because it hasn't. I'm still like really excited for plants, but I'm definitely just like way more mature about the way that I go about acquiring them. I have more of a long-term mindset, like, okay, I don't need to get this plant right this second, I can get it later. Whereas before I was very, very short term, like I like this plant now and I want it now. And definitely I've grown out of that, which I'm very thankful for. My wallet is also thankful for that. Probably my marriage is very thankful for that. So if you're currently in that sort of a state where you're just like, I want to buy it all, maybe take a breather. Just take a second and like think about these purchases. The next plant I'm going to repot is this one. This is a Syngonium rayi or something like that. But the roots are actually growing out of the bottom, which I'm just now noticing. So I'm gonna wait to see what the root system looks like before I decide on the pot. Oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, the root system's not super developed. So we should be okay to put it in a probably like a 4-inch pot. But yeah, that's pretty much the root ball we got. Looks pretty good. And the soil that it was in is not bad. Like it's, I got this plant from Helmy's Garden Center here in town. Somebody asked me to talk about my thoughts on people buying plants to resell as cuttings and make a profit. It's really annoying. It's really annoying. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've done that before. And it was before, like, it was before everybody was doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like the original, like, lame person who does that. I only did it one time, and I did feel kind of icky doing it. But the thing was, I purchased the plant, and I didn't need the whole thing. So I was like, I'm just gonna cut this. Like, I'm just gonna, like, divide this plant and give it to people and sell some pieces. It was a whale fin, big pot of whale fin that I purchased from a local nursery in Tucson. I'm okay with sharing this with you guys because people grow and people learn. Buying a single plant and dividing it up and like giving it away and selling part of it might be different than going and buying like every single Synapsis like moonlight in the store, which I have seen people do. But then again, I'm not gonna say that I'm like better than these people because at one point I did do something similar. So here's what I say about it. I hope that those people learn that that's just like really lame and stop doing it eventually. You know, I figured that out and I stopped doing it. Well, I only did it once, but you know what I mean? Like, hopefully they will figure it out that that's pretty lame and it takes away opportunities for people to like buy a plant accessibly. It takes away accessibility, you know, which I think is a really big issue with plants right now, is that it's turning into an expensive hobby. I just got dirt everywhere, which I think that it's like totally lame that it would be considered an expensive hobby because they're plants. And yeah, I mean, some plants are very expensive. So like obviously you can choose what level of like plants you want to buy. You have agency in that. But like, what if you want one of those more expensive plants? Like, it's pretty much impossible for some people. Like if you have a family, if you have, you know, student loans, or, you know, if you're just like a normal person, there's a lot of plants that you just cannot have, which is sad to me. So I think that having a community of people where you can trade plants with each other, you know, like we know I have my little micro community and Adam and Nicole, and we have traded among us like some pretty expensive plants. To me, it just feels very normal to do that. You know, I'm not gonna do that with everybody on the internet because like I don't have enough plants to do that. But I think that it's important to create little micro communities within the greater plant community to have in relationships where you can do that to help these plants become more accessible. And then, you know, I've given cuttings of plants that Adam gave me or Nicole gave me to other people who didn't have access to that plant or like couldn't find it or whatever, for whatever reason they didn't have it. So I think that it's just important to focus more on that rather than trying to make a profit. You know, if you want to make a profit on selling plants, then start growing plants and selling them yourself. You know, propagate your own plants and do that. I don't know, I feel like there's better ways to make money off of plants rather than going and buying them and reselling. Like, it's kind of like, and this might be controversial and that's okay, but sometimes I have issues with thrift reselling. Like, it's kind of annoying, but at the same time, I've also like benefited from it because I have purchased from a thrift reseller. But I mean, they kind of do all the work for you so that you don't have to like dig for hours and hours. You can just like search a keyword and you find what you need. So that's probably a little bit different. I don't know, it's hard to find a good comparison because thrift resell is helpful most of the time, you know? But when you're buying a bunch of plants that are affordable and selling them for double the price, that's not helpful to anybody besides yourself. So I think that that is a situation that I cannot really compare to something else that I don't know, maybe if you guys have a comparison, but it really only benefits the person who's buying and reselling. Yeah, I don't know. So that's my thoughts on it. Kind of jumbled, but that's my opinion. Here she is repotted. I think it's gonna be great. It'll get a little boost of fertilizer with the De La Tank soil. So next I'm going to be repotting my Fertonia. Fertonia, in my experience, the root system doesn't grow very quickly. Like, they don't really need to be repotted that often. So I don't tend to pot them up too much bigger than the previous pot. So I am going to try this pot. I thrifted this so long ago and I haven't really found a good plant for it. It needs something that needs to be shallow. I feel like this will be a good pot for my Gloriosum once it gets bigger, or even my Mammy Eye when that one gets bigger. But for now, I'm probably just gonna put this Fertonia in it, depending on the root system, of course. But I feel like this just looks much better in a shallow pot. This is a really interesting one. It says how to deal with plant jealousy. Jealousy is such an interesting thing. I caught myself in a jealous moment the other night, and I really I don't usually do like a check myself moment. I kind of am destructive with myself, and I let myself get frustrated and jealous and envious or whatever it may be. And I'm not very good at catching myself in the moment and being like, no, Becca, we're not gonna think like that. Because let me tell you what happened. I was watching a YouTube video of one of my favorite YouTubers, Kristen Johns. It was her and her husband, Marcus. They were doing a house tour, showing their new house, which is beautiful, by the way. Their property is gorgeous. They have like 15 acres or something in Tennessee. And they were showing the house, and I was like, oh my God, their house looks so good. Like, I'm so jealous that they can afford to do all of these renovations and blah, blah, blah. You know, I was just getting, not upset, but I was just jealous. Oh, I wish that we could do that. What would our house look like if we could just completely gut it, blah, blah, blah. Because there's a lot of things about our house that I don't like, but it's not our forever home. So we're not going to spend a lot of time and money on those things. We're just going to enjoy it while we can, make some improvements here and there, and then move on, because again, this is not where we're going to be putting down roots forever. So I found myself just in a bad place watching her video, and that's not her fault. It's definitely me. I don't know. So I think that it's important to catch yourself in those moments. This question is specifically about plant jealousy. So when you see somebody with a collection that you really wish you had or something like that, I think that it's just important to ground yourself, and in that moment when you realize that you're doing that, call it out and be like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and I don't need to be doing that. That's not helpful for anybody, especially myself. In that moment when I was so jealous of her, I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm jealous because I have so much property. I have space, just like them, you know what I mean? And so in that moment, if you're jealous of somebody's plant collection, you can literally just be like, I have so many beautiful, wonderful plants that I love. And maybe I don't have that super expensive, quote unquote, rare plant, but I have a Fertonia and I love my Fertonia. I have a Philodendron Braziller, you know what I mean? Just going back to the basics and recentering yourself on what you do have and why that's good, why it's more than good enough and all of that kind of stuff. I think that's so important, especially when you collect, and owning houseplants is well, if you have if you're on Instagram with your houseplants, you have a plant Instagram or whatever it may be, you're constantly looking at other people's stuff. And so I think that it would be difficult to not have those thoughts. It might be a little strange if you don't. I mean, it's good if you don't, but I'd say that that's more rare, So, okay, I teased off a good amount of soil, but these roots are so fine, the Begonia roots. So I just don't really want to tease too much more. And I'm just going to pop it right in. I don't know how this is gonna go. I mean, it definitely does need a bigger pot, but like I said, the roots just don't do too much. So I'm gonna do this for right now, because I am going to need a bigger shallow pot, and I'm gonna have to find that later. I don't have one right now, but I will just put it in here. It does look cute in this pot, but yeah, it's just not gonna work long term, unfortunately. Alrighty, so I am now going to do my Begonia Immaculata, and I'm expecting this one to be very similar to the first Begonia that I repotted. The soil mixture is exactly the same. So, and it's pretty much the same size, root system. So I'm just gonna shave off as much of this as I can. What plants are becoming trendy in 2021, and what are your thoughts on those? Okay, let me be honest. I don't really know what plants are becoming trendy right now, because I don't know if there even is one right now that's super trendy. I haven't seen anything. Like, you know, when like the Tetrasperma was huge, that was like, you can't even miss it, that plant is trendy. And then when the Birkin was big, you couldn't even miss that. The Pilea. I don't know if there is one that's trendy right now. I'm probably gonna come away from this like during editing and be like, oh my God, I'm so dumb. It's this plant. But I can't think of anything. But I think that trending plants are so funny because I don't know who decides that it's trending. Like, I don't know who made that decision or decided that or whatever. It's very interesting. It's similar with fashion and stuff, but honestly, I don't know. So that's a little anticlimactic. But also somebody asked for a status update on Dan. So Daniel is my husband, by the way. He has a head injury right now. And there's not really a status update. I mean, he has a pretty bad concussion and he's just got to rest it off, you know? It's lasting longer than we thought. Concussions are not linear, I guess. Like everyone handles them differently and like depending on how hard you hit your head, where you hit your head, blah, blah, blah. So we've seen a lot of doctors like for various things and they're all saying, you know, just wait it off. So that's what we're doing. We're just kind of chilling. Yeah, that's really all there is to say about that. I know that I've like kind of mentioned it in some videos, but yeah, that's what's going on with him. He's okay. He's in good spirits. His sense of humor remains intact, which is good. I do enjoy his sense of humor. That's something that is just like the best thing ever. We just celebrated 2 years of marriage yesterday. Or yeah. Yesterday? No, 2 days ago on June 30th. And it was just, I don't know. It's nice to look back and like think about the day we got married. I was so nervous. I don't know why. If you've been married, you have to let me know if I'm like totally weird for this, but I was absolutely convinced that he wouldn't come to the wedding. And I was like so scared that I would be left at the altar. I literally had no reason to think that. Daniel is the most like consistent, punctual, faithful person I have literally ever met in my life. So I had no reason to think that he wouldn't come, but for some reason in my mind, I was like, what if he doesn't come? And it's so funny because I was talking with my maid of honor like the night before, because she and I shared a bed the night before the wedding. He was like texting her like, oh, can you ask Becca about like this flight thing or whatever? And I was like, so that means he's coming, right? Like the flight for our honeymoon, of course. And I was like, so like he's coming, right? Like that means he's gonna come and like show up and it's gonna be okay. And she was probably just like, what the hell? Like, yeah, he's gonna go to your wedding. He loves you. Like, what? Anyway, it was just really funny to think back like on that day and look at the pictures, and it was just such a special time. And then we were talking about this morning how the last time we went really like on a trip was our honeymoon. Right after you get married, like getting married is expensive and you have the trip right after, you're so tired. So we probably weren't gonna travel the rest of, well, we didn't travel the rest of 2019 because obviously, you know, it was really crazy at the beginning of the year. We didn't think to book travel because we had just had our wedding and our honeymoon, so we just didn't do anything for like the beginning of 2020. And then the pandemic happened and like nobody could travel, and travel is sort of coming back. It seems, at least in certain places, like definitely travel within the US is a thing because lots of people are vaccinated, you know, numbers are down and things are just being slightly more under control. But we'll just have to see how that works out long term. My sister is graduating from high school next year, so we're probably gonna do a trip together, maybe with the whole family or just me and her, I don't really know. But I don't know, it's just really exciting. So like there's definitely a future after COVID, you know, things are looking up. And I'm definitely very optimistic. That might come and bite me in the ass later, but I'm gonna be optimistic. So, okay, I think that's all I want to do today. My hands are very, very dirty. I'm very uncomfortable with that, so I'm gonna go wash my hands and get started working on other things. So thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate you hanging out with me and offering some suggestions of what to chat about. I'll probably take some of these ideas and make like full videos or do another repot with me later, because there's definitely more stuff to do, but I feel like I've been talking for a long time, so we're gonna cut it off there. If you wanna check out Bellway, don't forget to click the link in the description box below and use the code Becca20 for 20% off your order. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.